cool pants. Now, you know where else we saw a kind of love-hate dynamic buried underneath the beef? Thursday's GOP debate. Okay, minus the hip-hop and the powdered wigs, Senator Ted Cruz on Thursday challenged his absent opponent, ultimate beefer Donald Trump, to a duel in front of a live audience. And per Kanye West to Wiz, first came the insult.
I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
Okay, then that was followed with props.
I am glad Donald is running. I'm glad he has produced enormous enthusiasm. And to every Donald Trump voter or potential voter, I hope to earn your support. I know everyone else on this stage hopes to earn your support.
I just loved it. You see, presidential candidates channeling hip-hop beefing isn't such a bad idea because, like in the world of hip-hop, the most important thing to remember in politics, never alienate the fans. Joining me now is Boris Epshteyn, who is the Republican strategist and former communications aide for the McCain-Palin campaigns. Also, Maria Hinojosa, executive producer and anchor of NPR's Latino USA. Beth Fewey, who is senior editor here at MSNBC.com. And Elise Jordan, MSNBC political analyst and former senior advisor for policy for Senator Rand Paul's campaign. So fun to have you all here. I'm sorry for my silly intro, but I really did see this kind of like, you know, part of what Ted Cruz had to do was, all of them had to do with Mr. Trump gone, was to say he's terrible, but not that terrible, because I still want his supporters to now want me.
And for Trump not to go after them, because he is the super beefer, right?
He really is.
You really don't want to get on his back.
No, you really don't, because you will lose that one.
So you will go down, and that's it, right?
Yes.
ICU turns into an ICU.
Yeah, right.
What Trump did the other night was really basically just a brilliant setup to have everyone go at Ted Cruz. And he knew there's so much loathing of Ted Cruz up on that stage, and he, by putting Ted in the front runner position, everyone just went for it.
In fact, let's listen to Ted Cruz saying, everybody is kind of beating me up here. Let's take a listen to that.
Let's begin by being clear what this campaign is about. It's not about Donald Trump.
I kind of miss Donald Trump. He was a little teddy bear to me. We always had such a loving relationship during these debates and in between and the tweets. I kind of miss him. I wish he was here.
Well, so that wasn't it. So let's pause for just a second and let's listen to the one that I was calling for initially.
Chris, I would note that the last 4 questions have been, Rand, please attack Ted. Marco, please attack Ted. Chris, please attack Ted. Jeb, please attack Ted. Let me just say this.
It is a debate, sir.
Well, no, a debate actually is a policy issue, but I will say this, gosh, if you guys ask one more mean question, I may have to leave the stage.
So is that an error? Was that an unforced error that I'll leave if you keep being mean to me?
All I could say is all my Republican folks that I follow on Twitter were just like, folks, you're seeing the real Ted Cruz here. Hope you know that this is what you're getting if you decide to elect this guy. I was noticing, Maria, you're Maria. I was to you, Melissa. I was just thinking about the other beefs that were exposed with Trump not being on the stage, and I caught like 5: Rubio versus Cruz and immigration, Rubio versus Christie, governor versus senator. You know, senators don't do anything according to Christie. Rand Paul versus Christie on national security, Rand Paul versus Rubio on national security, and Jeb versus Rubio, sort of the father and the prodigal son. A lot of beefs.
Notice it wasn't any beefs, it's Kasich. That's very interesting.
Right.
So Kasich stayed out of any really frontal attack, and he has done some really good work in New Hampshire. You've seen some polls almost up to 20% in there. Now, Bush is also up to 18% in Emerson poll. So the people maybe who are beefing the least are doing the best with Trump not there.
Well, so it's so interesting. You know, I called 2 years ago. I just sort of, just looking at the field before anything happened, including the Trump phenomenon, I thought that Kasich just looked like the strongest kind of on paper candidate. You know, that what you want is a Midwestern governor, right? And again, maybe not for the primaries, but come general election time, you want a Midwestern governor. You want to pair him with somebody like a Nikki Haley, you know, from the South, a woman of color, who, I mean, that ticket is a really hard one for Democrats to beat, but it is hard for me to imagine a Kasich, if you just look at sort of the number of minutes that people had to talk, how in the world would caucusers or voters have any idea who John Kasich is to go vote for him?
You know, those debates, don't mean as much as we think. They mean a lot. And they mean a lot in terms of voters first getting to know somebody. But especially in Iowa, it's hand-to-hand combat. In Iowa, it's all about being out there and pressing the flesh. And Kasich's done that well there, and he's done it very well in New Hampshire. So is Christie.
But the debate this last debate especially was important in the sense that it is 3 days before, and the debate on immigration. Very important in Iowa. And also how Rubio and Cruz are really navigating this fine line, and how Cruz has also seen his lead. He really peaked too early, and now he's become the battering ram for the other candidates, and now he's trying to set expectations. Oh, let's forget about Iowa. We're going to do really well in those SEC states.
So my question was actually when I was watching Rubio doing his immigration thing, and I actually tweeted, I said, could Marco Rubio get as many Latino votes as George W. Bush? Because the way he was speaking, I was like, I don't know if he can do this. And what the Republican Party needs is that. But if you're, when I was talking to Latinos on the ground, their response was, this is pushing us even further away. And he's going to have that Latino vote like George W. now that's being held up.
So Marco Rubio was being experienced as alienating by the folks that you were?
Absolutely.
It's fascinating because I was thinking as I was watching, I was like, oh my goodness, he looks dangerous to me in a general.
It's not to say that he doesn't look presidential, but the way he was talking about these things was so kind of adamant that that's the response that I was hearing.
Although he said, we're not going to deport 11 million people. I mean, he came flat out and said that, which admittedly,
but that
Trump has
just
been
means,
the guy who's
we're kind of holding things down, right? Meanwhile, there's no resolution, and it's just like that's at this point they're looking for more.
The problem with Rubio is that no one really knows where he stands. I, as a Republican, cannot tell you for sure where Rubio stands on immigration. You know why? Because I'm not sure he knows where he stands on immigration. He goes back and forth with it.
Issue.
And you brought up George W. Bush. To me, the best candidate on immigration is his brother. Jeb Bush has been somewhat consistent. And it's also the policy that unites the most people.
Well, I was going to say, Jeb, for the first time, and not that I'm sure that he can even maintain this, but without Trump on the stage, for the first time, it felt like, oh, that's why he thought he could run. Like, I mean, again, I still think he's not, it's, again, fascinating. Not so much in terms of support for the policies, but you could see what a strong campaigner George W. is relative to Jeb, just in watching Jeb run this time. But for the first time, when Trump wasn't on the stage, you kind of saw Jeb straighten up a little bit.
And not just Jeb. I mean, I think Rand Paul did really well. Yeah. I thought all of them, suddenly this was the campaign that would have been.
Right. This is the campaign they were expecting.
An opportunity to focus on policy instead of these petty insults that we're letting. I just feel like the Republican field in general, with the exception of a few candidates like Rand Paul, like Jeb, who have really gone after Trump, have let Trump get away with just being this misogynistic jerk, and it's such a stain on the party that's going to
So this is so interesting because I want to talk about my favorite beef of the night, which was Megyn Kelly and Trump,
awesome job.
who did an awesome job. And I mean, so awesome, she kept him from even being in the cipher that night. The New York Times just endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. We're going to have more on that when we come back. Yeah.